Great day, people. Hey, I wanted to speak on a topic of inflammation. All right, and I think this is a big thing that many people misinterpret and misunderstand when it comes to how the body heals, how it recovers from workouts, all this kind of stuff. And I think this is something that we need to address more, not only with athletes, because I think it's extremely important. I'm going to get into that point, but with everybody. Most inflammation is your cause of disease, sickness, injuries. This is what inflammation does to the human body. Now, you're never going to be able to stop inflammation from happening, all of it. Okay. You can stop a great deal of it, but you can't stop all of it. There's certain things you do. Inflammation is a buildup of substances that occur within the body. All right. They could be their cells and things like that that help the body recover at times, but also can harm the body if you do not get rid of the inflammation. And with most people are chronically inflamed. Okay. They don't even know, but they're chronically inflamed. When it comes to athletes, say an athlete gets injured. All right. Say an ankle sprain. The first thing that happens is the ankle typically swells in most cases. Okay. That's not a bad thing. Most people treat that as a bad thing, and most people right away throw ice on it. We need to get the inflammation down. That's not how you treat inflammation. I'm sorry, I've been speaking about this for 20 years about this ice problem that so many people continue to go to. I have zero idea. Parents, wake up. Realize that ice is not, I don't care if you're athletic trainer, your doctor prescribes it, it doesn't work. It's not how the human body works. The majority of us are Christians. Let's start thinking on a biblical aspect of how God made us. Okay. And if you don't think like this, then it comes into question, how do you perceive the human body to be made? Okay. The body was made by God. He did not say, hey, you get hurt, throw some ice on it. Never, never. We came up with that because we said, wow, look what ice does. It constricts blood flow. So that must mean that this is how you get rid of inflammation by constricting blood flow. That's not how you get rid of inflammation. All you do is you get rid of the nerves. You numb the nerves by the ice, okay, which makes it feel better temporarily. But the swelling is still there. Yeah, you might see a reduction in it. That's only because the blood is not pumping in there as fast. But what's the key? I always tell people this blood is the key to the recovery process, just like blood is the key to all of life. Okay, when it comes to the human body, you bleed out, you're dead. Okay, blood transports almost all our nutrients that we need throughout the body. Okay, so this is a huge thing that we need. Inflammation occurs once that injury occurs. Okay, how do I get rid of it? I've spoken on this numerous times, so I'm not going to go over it. Okay, there's a natural way to get rid of that inflammation and do it correctly. And I've seen it hundreds of times that I've done it with athletes. Okay, and they've all come back quicker and they've all come back better. Why? Because I did not trick the human body into thinking that what? It needs to slow the healing process down. Never, never do I want to do that. The human body does not want to slow the healing process down. It doesn't. It wants to speed it up. It wants to get back to the normal homeostates that it should be in. When you have inflammation, it's not in that state anymore. It's whacked out. It's on the side over here somewhere. Okay. So that's an example of athletes. Another example of athletes or people that work out is your body automatically inflames. Okay. When I work out. So if I'm lifting weights, say I'm doing a routine that, involves, the upper body, my body inflames. Now, healthy people, people whose body works function correctly, that inflammation will clear out of the way. Now, you might feel like a delayed onset of fatigue that people call, or delayed, I should say, delayed muscle soreness or muscle soreness, things like that. That's some of the inflammation. That's some soreness that's in the muscles. Okay, it could also be in the tendons, depending on what happened. That sometimes can take a day, 2, 3 days, whatever. Especially when you first start to work out or you went maybe extremely heavy, that's what happens. But there's some inflammation that's going on. Now, body, like I said, usually clears that out pretty quickly. Okay. If I sprint, okay, if I routinely sprint, do a sprint workout 2, 3 times a week, 4, 5, 6 times a week, my body tends to know how to clear that out extremely quickly. Why? Because the DNA that's inside of us knows sprinting as one of the key components of being human. Okay. We were made as hunters and gatherers. We needed to sprint to get food. We needed to sprint to get away from things. We needed to sprint. Okay. We were also meant to walk long distances at a good fast pace, not jogging, but walking at a fast pace. Okay. So our body knows how to clear these processes out through our DNA, through the natural code that God has given us. Okay. Let's go to another side. Let's go why disease occurs. Okay. Especially chronic disease. It's an inflammational process. You talk about diabetes. It's an inflammation. It's an insulin problem. Okay. But it's an inflammation. All right. Cancer, inflammation. These are all because your body's in an inflamed state all the time. Your body has a hard time to get rid of it. Just like I talk about with most people when it comes to sickness. All right. We're coming into winter. People always come up with some kind of sickness. They call it the flu season. Okay, I don't know why we call this the flu season, really, in all honesty. When you really think about it, this flu shouldn't even be living in the cold. If we really get down, if you're going to say that the virus got you sick, it shouldn't. But why do you? Because you stay inside. So your body stays in a chronic inflamed state because you're not getting outside to expel a lot of the inflammation, a lot of the toxins, a lot of the things that need to be taken out. People don't do. Okay. Just naturally how it is. All right. It's not that we're, inside plays a huge role because we don't get outside enough because it's cold. I don't want to be outside. The days are shorter, the light outside is much shorter. So then we tend to get into these states. So we become inflamed, and then we just start to have what? Issues of toxins build up. And then eventually what happens is you get some type of germ or whatever you want to call it, gets in your system and your body can't expel it out. It expels it out through what? Expels it out through being sick. Okay. But if you took care of your body and you didn't have the inflamed state, the chance of that ever happening are slim to none. Okay. And I speak about that often. And you guys can dive into it. You don't have to believe anything I say. I don't want you to believe anything I say. But what I'm trying to do with you is trying to get you to understand there are different thought processes and different ways that the human body is. And you have to do your own research, just like I do. I do it all the time. Somebody tells me something, I'm like, okay, I take it in, I look it up, and I'm like, that makes zero sense. Why am I going to follow that? I'm not going to blindly follow something that makes zero sense. So I have to do these things. Okay. That's what you need to do. So all this inflammation builds up, and then we have these issues. Okay. If I have too much inflammation, the body starts to fall apart because what's happening? Their body's trying to get rid of inflammation and it's fighting this on. Then something else comes in, okay, and it's trying to fight this. Remember, the body's always trying to get you back to a state of what? Healing and feeling the best you possibly can do. It can't do that if it's chronically inflamed. So if I eat crap all the time, eventually my body is going to be like, I can't handle it anymore. I'm done. I'm done with this. You did it to yourself. Boom. And then you come up with some type of disease, right? If I ate crap like food, okay, I ate fast food all the time. I ate, out. I ate processed food. I might develop certain diseases like Crohn's and colitis. Okay. They're inflammation of the body. All right. And then eventually something happens. And then you wonder why. And you're like, I don't know why. What do you mean you don't know why? You eat like that. That's what the body does. You have to eat it in the principles that God gave us. And I know it's hard. Okay. I'm not saying it's easy. Everybody thinks it's easy. It's not easy for me either. Okay. I have to work on it just like you, as well as everybody else out there. These are things that you have to do. But the inflammation is what causes most of our problems. Now, I want to throw one at you that I've really been thinking about. Okay. And really, really thinking hard because I know a lot of people who go out and run, they jog for a living. Okay. And a lot of these people all of a sudden develop heart problems, right? Whether they fall over with heart attacks, they have heart attacks, they have heart conditions and stuff. You would say, how can this be? These people should be in phenomenal shape. Okay. These people like are supposed to be at the pinnacle of health. But the more I think about it, I'm like, okay, jogging was not ever meant in the human body. Okay. That's not how humans were designed. I told you we're sprinters and fast walkers. Jogging comes somewhere in between. Your body has to inflame. It has to inflame itself, okay, during that process. I shouldn't say it has to, but it will inflame itself because of what? Because of the pounding that you're putting on. The inflammational process is if the body has a hard time understanding that inflammational process, it has a hard time of what? Of getting rid of inflammation. Okay, whether it's around the heart, whether it's around here, whatever it is, has a hard time of understanding this process. Okay. And this is just a theory that I'm going on. Okay. So don't people be like, well, where's your studies at? Where's your studies? Like I said, we can talk about studies all day long. We talked about a lot of studies during the whole virus time and how many of those were incorrect, but everybody wanted studies on that stuff, right? If you have all this information, right, and I'm running 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week, and it's anywhere between 2 miles to 10 miles, 5 miles, whatever it is, okay, your body never has a chance to actually get rid of the inflammation. Your body has a hard time, like I said, of understanding that type of information because it's not known to this. Just like injuries, if you don't treat the injury properly, the inflammation sits there because the body's not used to injuries. It doesn't want to be injured. So it's not used to it. So you have to understand how to get rid of that inflammation to actually get yourself back. And that's why I do the routines that I do with the ankle, the knee, and stuff. And I've had incredible success with them. But with running, okay, and I'm talking about running, not sprinting and not fast walking, but running, the stuff that people do outside, and they go out for these miles. Maybe it's because of that inflammation that we're having a lot of issues, that people have, you know, certain heart issues and certain things going on because they're not changing up to get expel this stuff out. And so this inflammation constantly builds up. Now, it might not build up for a year, it might not even be 2 years, it might even be 10 years, it might be 15, 20 years down the line. Just like I tell people, most times you can eat something bad and it's not going to be that one time that's going to cause you to have any issues. Just like you can move improperly, okay, you're probably not going to have any problems. But you continue to move improperly, it might be 10 years down the road, then all of a sudden something happens. The human body does not work the way you think it should work. Okay. And that's the issue. Most people think, I did this move. This is what caused me to X, Y, and Z get hurt. That's not always the case. You might have been hurting yourself for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden something broke or something snapped. But you blame it on that one thing. But that's not how it is. The human body is so resilient, it heals so phenomenal. We screw it up. We do the damage to it. We do the things that the body says don't do, and you still do it to it. For whatever reason, that's fine. I'm not saying you don't push your body, but I'm also saying you got to understand your body, and it all bases back to God in the Bible, and it goes into our ancestors and how they lived and how they had to get around and how they had to do things. These are all things that we have to take into account when it comes to the human body, not just what science thinks it can tell us. Because, like I said, a lot of times science is all jacked up, it's all over the place. I could have a study that shows you one thing. This guy could do the same exact study and it's totally different. Okay, with the results. Just how it is. Because that person might have been, guess what? Might not have got enough sleep last night. So even though it's the same age, same person, same, hey, they work out, they do this, blah, 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 blah. This person only slept 6 hours, this person slept 8. Do you see how it can go off? So it's all based on understanding this stuff. But when it comes back to that jogging point, think about that. If our bodies don't know how to excrete that inflammation, because it does inflame, okay, then that's where the problem comes into play. Because people ask me all the time, man, this guy was in great shape, man. He was running 5 days a week, 4 to 5 miles, sometimes getting up to 10. Look at him. He looked superb. And bah, how did he fall over with a heart attack? This guy ate, McDonald's his whole life and, bah, and he's fine. Well, he's not really fine, but you know what I mean? He hasn't fallen over a heart attack. Well, when you add the inflammation on and then you continue to stress it, that's what can lead to this. Now, like I said, this is my theory on it. You can go do your own research. You can start looking things up. You can start asking more and more questions, is what we should do because that's called education. I don't want to indoctrinate you. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm trying to educate you on a theory of why things occur. And like I said, I take a lot of principles from the Bible and I take a lot of principles from how humans are. Not how people tell me they should be, but how they truly are and how we're made. Okay. And that's what I want people to start to understand. I want you to start to understand there are ways to get things done, but there are also ways that we have to understand why we do these things. And that inflammation is a major problem if not treated correctly. Chronic inflammation leads to most of our problems, our diseases, our injuries, and everything else, such as a person who sprains an ankle. Okay, I'm going to go back to this one. If you do not chronically get that inflammation out, right, and you let it sit, and you're going to do the most basic stuff, ice it, heat, ice, heat. We'll do some rehab with it. 6 weeks later, it doesn't hurt anymore, which it shouldn't hurt. I'll be honest with you. If an ankle hurts like that, there's probably something more damage to it than that. You just took the easy approach to it. You just didn't really do much. if I don't get rid of the inflammation, it can lead to problems up my chain. So then my knee might cause problems, or my hip, because of what? Compensation. Okay. And the inflammation hasn't been pushed out the correct way. This is what happens. That's why I'm always such a huge proponent of, if you get hurt, we need to treat it right away. Let's go. Get on it. Let's go. Let's get rid of it. Let's get you back as fast as possible. So you're not compensating, but you're getting rid of the inflammation. That's why I'm such a stickler on this. Some people aren't. Some people think you should rest, elevate it and rest it, and just sit there with a bag of ice. I'm not. That's not how the body was ever designed. It was made to move. We know that. Okay, that's one of the things that we do know. The body loves to move. Okay, we made it lazy by the conveniences of life, but it loves to move. So if it loves to move, let's get it moving. Okay, same thing. We have to start looking into things more deeply. And what I said with that jogging thing, I know it's going to upset a lot of people because I know people love to go out and jog and they love to go out and run their miles. But you have to start thinking a little differently. How can we clean that out? How can we clean the information out? And that's something that I'm working on. I'm trying to figure it out. But I'm saying I'm not a huge fan of the jog. Okay, I've told this to numerous people. I'm not a fan of jogging. I just don't think it was in our DNA. We were sprinters and fast walkers. Jogging's something totally different. And if our bodies don't understand that, it has to sometimes adapt. But in the adaptation process, the inflammation could not be expelled out the right way. And that's what I think we need to start looking at. All right. Let me know what you guys think. All right. I think this is a topic that we have to discuss because I think inflammation is a huge problem in our society. And I see it. People are chronically inflamed. That's why some people say to me, you know, I can't lose this weight. It's not weight. It's not fat that you have. You're inflamed. You're eating something, you're taking something in, your body's taking in some environmental toxin that you cannot get rid of. And I think that's one thing that we have to start diving deeper into. And it's not what most people want to dive into because we just want to blame it on some germ that got me sick or some virus that got me sick. And I'll just blame it on the virus for the death. I don't go there. I don't. I just don't think that's how I don't think that's how God ever thought. I really don't. I think God was much deeper than that. And I think um, we do it to ourselves by the stuff that we do, and it accumulates over time. It's not just one thing. Unless I got hit by a car or a train or something like that, I think we allow ourselves to fall apart. And I'm sick and tired of people dying at age 60, 70, and 80 when we should be living to 100, 120, 130, 140 naturally. Okay. That's a key for me. I'm not saying you don't supplement, but not with some of all these guys that do out there. Okay. All this crazy stuff. All right. Naturally, we have to figure this stuff out. Do I think we should live forever? Not at all. Not at all. I do not believe in that. I don't think it's right. I don't think ever God wanted us to. If he did, we'd all still be, we live to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years old. Okay. There'd still be Noah and Moses would be still walking around to this day. Don't believe that at all. Do think there's an expiration date on us all, but I do believe that we should be getting more out of it. Okay. Much, much, much more. So reach out, guys. Let me know. What do you think? Let's start having this debate. Let's start having this discussion. Be blessed and God bless you guys.